everyone. Welcome to the Hollywood Critics Association Bel-Air Aftershow podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Fowler, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, John Rocha. Hey,
Hello.
John, how you doing today?
Good. I'm excited to be talking about this. We're almost to the finale of the season, so episode 9 certainly left us with a lot to think about after it was over. So I'm excited to jump into it with you.
Absolutely. So, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know how you're enjoying the show. We also want to know, your comments on our review of the show and our recap of the show. If you haven't seen episode 9, make sure to rewind out of this video, take a look at the episode, and then head back over and let us know what you thought. So we're going to jump right into a recap of episode 9, Can't Knock the Hustle. In this episode, we see the family that prays together, stays together. As the Banks family goes to church, Phil speaks to his minister about mobilizing the congregation to get out and vote. Ashley is advocating for LGBTQIA+ for the choir and asking a lot of political questions that now has Vivian curious about where her curiosities and interests are stemming from. Carlton is dealing with his mental health and anxieties. While we find out that Carlton can actually, quote unquote, sing, he does get stage fright singing at church, and Will advises Hillary that Carlton has been partying too hard and dabbles in the hard stuff. The campaign between Fred and Phil gets messy as we lead into the debate, as each side has dirt on the other. Jeffrey is the sound of reason when he says the world doesn't need to see two Black men tearing each other down, which has Phil contemplating if he will disclose that he has photos of Fred cheating on his wife while she was sick and dying. Fred also tells Lisa about Will's mugshot and gun charge, and how Phil had to clean it up, and she learns that everything Will told her wasn't all that truthful on why he came to Bel-Air. Jeffrey and Phil continue the disagreement on whether Will should know the truth about his father, with Jeffrey stepping over the line and ultimately providing Will with the information he requested on his dad in a sealed envelope. But it comes with a warning. This news may disrupt the entire Banks family. Will debates opening the envelope and ends up giving it to Phil, not wanting to cause the family who loves and cares for him any pain. We see Phil confronting Jeffrey on his betrayal, which ends in Jeffrey being fired, or quote unquote taking a leave of absence, but not without a warning and a brotherly hug to put his family first. Aunt Viv is offered a fellowship, and she has 24 hours to decide if she will put her family and Phil's run for DA over her career. Lots going on, lots of, I don't know. What were your thoughts on episode 9?
Yeah, there was a lot going on here for sure. And certainly Phil's decision at the end was a blockbuster decision I did not see coming. The Lisa revelation, we've been kind of waiting for that moment to happen. So certainly that kind of was coming. Well, that was, I thought was handled really well. I was surprised. In other shows, you've seen the girl storm off. I don't even know who you are anymore, and storm right off. And we have to spend 2 episodes with him trying to win her back. But in this episode, Lisa's a little more aware of things. Yeah, she's upset. She's hurt by being betrayed, but she's also willing to create space for Will to plead his case in that moment and have the conversation with him about her father. And then, of course, we see them running up to try to stop the debate and all of that. So I wonder where Phil made the decision. Was it after Jeffrey had the conversation with him? Was it hearing from Viv and what she's got going on in the fellowship? Was it Will and Carlton and all the pressures there? Hillary suffering, and we have that moment at the beginning of the episode where he turns around before they walk, out the door to church. He says, I'm very blessed to have this family every day. So what was the turning point for Phil? I wonder. But seeing Carlton with the anxiety, seeing Will really dealing with the Lisa stuff, and then Hillary using jazz yet again to kind of get out of her situation. I don't know. I'm not 100% liking how Hillary's handling things, to be honest with you. But overall, I enjoyed this episode, and certainly great to see the second Aunt Viv coming back to talk to the third Aunt Viv there in that fellowship conversation meeting. So a lot of fun to enjoy, or a lot of fun to take out of this episode, but also some drama to really explore here that I enjoyed.
Yeah. And wasn't there was going to be some exposure, right? With
Yes.
and that makes you wonder, all those positive things that you just said, was he thinking about that, or was he just thinking about, could he even get into some type of trouble,
Right. Right.
if that comes out. So I love that this episode was centered on the Black church. So many things happened.
Mhm.
We'll dive into everyone's storyline, as well as Ashley. She's still this, advocate and activist, which I think is a great storyline for her,
Yeah.
as that's a big part of her generation.
Yeah.
And we learn, we have this huge battle between Jeffrey and Phil, which is just full of details. So
Yeah.
we could kind of jump into that, the dynamic
Okay.
of Jeffrey, Phil, and Will, and him finding this, giving this information to Will, going behind Phil's back, and then they have this really, really strong conversation on how Jeffrey is saying, you haven't really been putting your family first. All of your dreams have, kind of come to fruition, but look at your family; they're struggling, and yeah, I'm glad it that scene kind of ended with that hug and embrace, because you can see Jeffrey really does care for the Banks family.
Yeah.
We find out a little bit more about Jeffrey having to leave his son behind. And I
Mhm.
actually got to speak with Jimmy, the actor who plays
Oh,
Jeffrey,
nice.
on the blue carpet for We Crashed.
Yeah.
We actually did a little interview. So, I mean, he's such a charismatic person, a
Yeah.
really, really big spirit. So I love seeing him in this. I hope it's not the end, with this leave of absence.
No
So
way.
we'll see. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, and as I said, it was a well, two surprises, right? Jeffrey tendering his resignation right before the end of the first season. That's a really shocking moment. I don't know if that happened during the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air at all in the original version. I don't remember if that happened or not, but certainly having it happen here. And it's such a turn too, because over the last few episodes, we've seen Jeffrey kind of see the darker sides of Phil, and certainly him having the conversation with Phil and kind of outing him about all the issues that are going on in his family that he's not seeing. That like Hillary said earlier, a true friend checks in on you or checks with you, whether you want them to or not, or a family member does that, whether you want them to or not. And Jimmy, in a way, or Jeffrey rather, in a way, is another family member. Even Viv says, "What's this all about with Jeffrey leaving? I need him to be here because I'm going to be doing the fellowship. You're going to be being a DA possibly. We need to have Phil here, or we need to have Jeffrey here." So certainly there's that element to it all here, running through the everything in this episode. And so the confrontation, to me, I thought was a pretty honest confrontation and a man confrontation, if I can use that term, in that things were spoken, no fists were thrown for once from Phil's side, and at the end they hugged it out to a degree and understood each other's position. And even Jeffrey at the end was willing to take the hit so that Phil doesn't be embarrassed by the fact that Jeffrey's quit on the eve of the election. And so even there, he's taking care of Phil, which shows you how much he loves his family. So I was pretty surprised by this and what happened. And Will and Jeffrey's interaction, having Will reject getting to know his father. I remember that was a big deal in the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So having Will be like, I don't need to know that information anymore. That's a really powerful move. And I wonder if that's the end of that, or if down the road, if this goes on for a few more seasons, his father finds his way back into his life, without Will's desire to have that happen, and what that ends up, I don't know, leading to for all these characters in the storylines.
Yeah. I wonder how fans took this whole Will not opening this envelope. We've been waiting to
But
hear.
it
I mean,
seems,
everyone wants to know who is Lou.
yeah,
So it was yeah, I mean, were you kind of like, put off by that, or do you think it's going to, still surface, or you think
yeah.
that this is
Like I said, I think if it goes on for a few more seasons, I think it has to surface. If you're a
Mhm.
writer or the writers' room, a showrunner, that's a rich storyline that you can milk for a few episodes. So why not have that come back at some point down the road? Was I disappointed? Yeah, a little bit, but I wasn't overwhelmingly disappointed because I
Mhm.
like the way he handled it. My life
Mhm.
is good. Why do I need to open this door? We've seen so many storylines in other shows where the kids have to find out who their parents are. We know in real life that happens too, where kids want to go find out. But sometimes kids don't. Sometimes kids don't want to go and find out who their parents were, or who their father or mother were, because either they gave them up, or they weren't strong enough to be there to raise them. So why do they get to now enjoy a relationship with me? I've seen that happen. So it's
Mhm.
not out of the realm possibility. So it was a strong choice for sure. And it keeps that storyline alive to use later on down the road. So I thought it was a smart
Mhm.
move by the writers overall.
Yeah, and it's just very realistic,
Yeah.
with blended families. We've talked about that before, and
Mhm.
the highs and lows that comes with that. Sometimes, secrets are kept for a very long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they almost come out and they don't, and it's just kind of a back and forth. That's reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, getting into a little bit of them going to church together. Ashley, she had a little bit of a storyline in this one as
Mm.
far as she was continuing to advocate for LGBTQ plus A plus
Yeah.
for the choir with her minister, and she's asking about the political affiliations before she's going to church, and um, you know basically, like I said, I think that's really strong for her character because of her age demo. But then it strikes curiosity in Vivian on, hey, why are you asking all of these questions? I thought she kind of handled it well with
Yeah.
showing support. So, what did you think of that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, she's young to be having this conversation with a minister, but out of the mouths of babes, as the saying goes, sometimes you have to listen to the youths because the youths are changing the world. The youth is the ones who are have the most energy to change the world. Maybe not the most means financially or the most influence politically, but they certainly have the energy to change the world. So, kind of calling out and the minister respectfully hearing her, which was a nice moment here instead of dismissing her. We know that in the church, the LGBTQ situation plus situation is an issue. On no matter what your faith is, it's an issue. And so, certainly having it brought up here is interesting and poignant. She's young. I mean, I will say this overall: I feel the series hasn't used Ashley well. She's kind of only
Mhm,
kind of swooped in every once in a while and had the interactions. And I would have liked to have seen a lot more with her. And we did get that situation with her and her friend
mhm,
and all of that. But there's certainly a lot more with Hillary, a lot more with Will and Carlton. I think Ashley's been kind of hard done with storylines this season, and this moment feels earned because she's a damn good actress, the young actress there.
mhm,
So it's very realistic. She delivers the line very realistically. But in the end, I was just like, okay, where is this going to lead us to? Because you can present the storyline, but then you've got to follow up with the storyline. Is she going to go back
mhm,
to the Reverend? Is she going to check in on this? Is she going to just take lip service? So I'm curious to see. And she's a young girl growing into her own power, and certainly her family is never short on opinions or taking chances or risks. So certainly at some point she will walk her own path as well. So it does lay the groundwork for that
mhm.
later on if this show continues for a few more seasons.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to with her and,
Mhm.
how she, bounces off the family. Even with Vivian, she said they donated to marriage equality. So we see some of
Yeah,
these, these new, modern ideas,
right.
woven throughout the family. So it'll be interesting to see how she's played out in
Yeah,
future seasons. And then also there was like an interaction between Phil and the minister as well. He was asking for them to, to mobilize the church to get out and vote. I thought that was a great nod to, especially a lot of the Black women that helped to in our, real election,
yeah,
mobilize the Black community. So it was nice
yeah,
to see some of those nods in there as well.
yeah.
Um, and then at church we see Carlton. He's still dealing, obviously, with mental health and anxiety, doing a little bit better, but he gets up on this stage and he has a full blown panic attack, which obviously Will kind of thought, is he still using? And he's, divulging to Hillary that, he kind of messes with the hard stuff. And yeah, I just thought it was, it's really great that they're still, it wasn't something that they just dropped, that they're really, bringing this story through all of the episodes, really important. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. What
Yeah,
did
I
you think?
did it too. And the line that Carlton says, it's a really powerful line for those of us that do suffer from occasional panic attacks or anxiety. The idea of I have anxiety about telling people I have anxiety. That's
Mhm,
absolutely true. That adds another layer of that on top of that. So people are always like, hey, reach out, reach out. I'm always here for you. But it isn't that simple for people who have anxiety or panic attacks because we do feel that sense of shame or that sense of being over a burden rather on people. and concerned about whether they're actually going to be able to help us. And sometimes people helping can hurt you when you have anxiety or panic attacks because they don't know what to say, or they say things like "you can get over it" or anything like that, and take a walk or something. But it's not. There's more to it than that. And so I like that they're not walking away from this storyline. They're
Mhm.
exploring it and seeing how it pops up and manifests in certain ways. In Carlton, I do like that him and Will had a really great conversation, both about his dad, which we'll get to, I imagine, in the church, in the aisle of the church, which was an odd place for Will to bring it up, but also later when they're talking about anxiety and Will saying, "Yo, I'm here for you," and Hillary, of course, making Will go up there and talk to Carlton and kept his food warm for him to make him do it.
It's chicken
And
and waffles.
exactly, yeah, which is great, and have the conversation with him about it, and kind of tell him, "Hey, I'm here," and then of course Carlton later saying, "Hey, man, you being there really helped me. I didn't use and I
Mhm.
wanted to use," and we see him looking at that, where it's at, and so the fact that he doesn't. So I thought it was really powerful and great back and forth between both of them. And we see, and now we're really cheering for this relationship. It's been so great, having them battle the first few episodes, Nikki. Now we really cheer for this relationship to get stronger and stronger as friends and as pseudo brothers in this family and cousins, of course. So I like that a lot, and yeah, I thought they dealt with it
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, and, it's such a difference in how, this wasn't even really a topic, in the past,
Yeah,
and just to
right.
talk about panic attacks and then to go into the layers on them, it's
Yeah.
really great to see. I think it's helping a lot of people. And what was that part about Will and Carlton, having that conversation? Oh, yeah, they had that conversation on his father
Yeah.
and, should he go down the rabbit hole and, Carlton, I love that everyone is still supporting each other, even though they're having their angst in, whether it's
Yeah.
their career or
Yeah.
school or what have you. It's really showing how the family really is like supporting one another.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
It's great to see.
So, and jumping into Hillary, we have a guest, Karushi Tran is on the show this episode as an influencer
Yeah.
that, yeah, Hillary's kind of looking up to, and she wants to collab with her, which is really great. Hillary has a few surprises. Again, she's and I guess Jazz and Hillary are connecting, and he wants to like cook her dinner, and she's like, "Oh, I have this, uh, bungalow, or
Yeah.
let's order room service," and they're actually sneaking into Kylo's studio to take her stuff back. And I'm like, this is not, I mean, she's just bringing Jazz into this, that
Yeah.
could have been dangerous,
Oh yeah.
is bringing him, him in there. And, so that was interesting. And, her father also at church basically says maybe there's still hope that you can go to law school. And she looks at him with such dread of, I don't really think that's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
we had a fan comment. I'll get to that
Oh,
after. I
okay.
want to know your thoughts on Hillary's involvement in this episode.
Well, I like how a little bit real life was mirroring her situation because Karucha Chan has 11.2 million followers on Instagram and Coco
Mhm.
has 1.1. So in
Mhm.
a way, it was kind of like real life mirroring the
Mhm.
characters here. This idea of the difference in terms of followers, and certainly her being over 10 million. I like that little, but she seemed to be hesitating to collaborate with her on anything. And I wonder if that's a little bit of professional jealousy or a little bit of like maybe she's not as big a fan of what Hillary's doing. And Hillary's still finding her voice. So maybe that's also a part of it as well. When
Mhm.
you collaborate with people at a certain level, you start to, you worry how that's going to affect your brand. So you got to be careful about that. That's just the reality. That's just the
Mhm.
reality. So seeing that played out. And so we see Hillary, she's hustling there. And as the title says, she's hustling in this to try to get a connection with her. But then, of course, using Jazz to go and get her stuff. And we don't know. Jazz says, like, why don't you just pay the 50,000 or get it from your dad? And she's like, well, I'm handling it myself. And it's like, well, no, Jazz is helping you. So you're not really handling yourself, but I get it. You got him to go and do stuff for you. But in the end, I mean, like, what is she taking? Is she stealing that stuff? I don't know. It seemed weird that she was taking this stuff and it didn't seem to feel like she was telling the full truth about the stuff he was taking. And certainly if Kylo sees that stuff, on her videos, he's going to know that she took the stuff from that area. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like an
Really,
odd situation.
that was definitely problematic.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like, they're going to trip something and the police are going to come, and this is not a good
Oh, right.
thing to be sneaking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely felt like she was not supposed to be there. So curious
Yeah,
to
I
know how
don't know.
that's.
Nikki, what do you think they're doing with her character in the show? I'm so confused because, like, am I just old? Is that what it is? Like, I guess, am I not young enough to kind of really connect with what she's going through? I don't know, because it feels like, because Coco's doing a great job as an actress, but the character herself, it seems like she's just constantly getting bailed out of these situations and there's no consequences. And I keep waiting for these consequences to show up, but they don't seem to show up. And is
Mhm.
the show copping out a little bit by not showing her with consequences because people like Coco Jones as an actress? So are they trying to make her seem like, are they trying to sweep it under the rug, some of the mistakes that she's making as a person in the show, Hillary herself? Or are they leading us to a big consequence down the road? I don't know, because
Mhm.
everyone's got to go on their journey and everyone seems to have consequences for their actions throughout this whole show, except for really Hillary. So I'm just concerned about how they're handling this on my end. I don't know how you feel about it
Mhm.
as a mom
Um,
with daughters, but like I'm just a little bit, maybe I'm disconnecting from it in some way. Yeah.
well, to jump in on, the real life mirroring of
Oh, yeah.
Karusha Chan and Coco. I've been a fan of Coco for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had interviews with her. We've followed and supported her career. And as a brown skinned woman, I feel like she was overlooked quite a bit. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
she's
Okay.
she sings, she acts, I just feel that, when we talk about the numbers, sometimes darker skinned women are not getting the limelight that they
Oh,
deserve.
interesting.
You have Normani has been outspoken about that. So
Yeah.
many brown skinned females have, been very vocal about that lately. So
Yeah.
that may, some of the discrepancy in I'm not saying one's better than the other, but that can play into that. And she's this 21, 22-year-old character going on to Hillary that is, she's having these growing pains. And she, there's just like an up and down. I mean, she is privileged to a
Yeah.
certain extent with wealth, with her family. Her father's an attorney that can bail her out of things. So I think they're showing, the duality of, just raising a Black female daughter
Mm.
in today's climate. And that leads, I want to jump back into that, but I want to
Yeah.
also read the comment that we had. Karen Wilson, it's on the last episode that we did when we were talking about Hillary. I think you asked me about, are we softer on our daughters? And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, kind of. But, when it comes to, I didn't think that they were going to throw her out and make her pay her
Yeah.
own rent because she didn't read her clause, But Karen Wilson mentions Fred. Well, she talks about Fred as well. First of all, she said, "Hey, the two of you, love y'all."
Thank you.
And then she says, "Fred is too busy thinking about himself. Yes, he needs to pay more attention to his daughter and not his wife. Also, as a Black woman, we do not cater to our daughters. We train them to be strong because in the end, they only have themselves to depend on," which is so true. And we also brought it up in some of our first episodes that, as a mother, of a Black female, whether it's going outside the house, worried about the police, worried about healthcare, we're always training our children to be on guard. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter if you have the best health insurance. We even have to worry when we go to the doctor whether we're getting the best support, because when we walk in, we're getting all the bias that comes with how that person sees Black women. So I think in these episodes, I'm seeing Hillary have the luxury to make a lot of mistakes, and I had to go back and think about that. Like when
Yeah.
she didn't read that contract, what would I even say to my own daughter? I
Right.
would have been harder on my daughter, and there would have been lectures and just a lot of conversation, because as this viewers mentioning, we do, Black women, we only have ourselves in the end. And so, it's just, we are very, very tough, quote unquote, on our daughters. But then there's this sense of privilege as well. So it's kind of like we're dipping into two different worlds. I would have liked to have seen more of that in
Yeah.
Hillary's character and the way she interacts with her parents. Yes, they're privileged, but they, I still don't see those conversations. Vivian did a little bit like, hey, maybe you should handle the Kylo thing yourself. But I would have liked to have seen more of like the sense of urgency
Yeah.
on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Yeah, of course, completely defer to your point of view on this and Karen's point of view on this as well.
Yeah. So just let's jump into Vivian.
Yeah.
She has a big decision to make as well. She's got 24 hours to decide if she's going to accept this fellowship.
Yeah.
And she's spiraling, and I love that she calls them to say, hey, and she starts rambling off every reason why she shouldn't take this fellowship. And they're like, that's why we give you 24 hours. We can't accept a decision until then, which is great because obviously it blends over to the debate. But I also loved the conversation that she was having with the fellowship overseers. Basically, they're asking her why she, stopped painting. And she goes into that narrative again, which is very true. She just felt overwhelmed. She felt like she was on the gerbil wheel. And, she was having to constantly define for everyone what it is that she's doing, and she just couldn't be. And I feel a lot of Black women, not all, but even myself, you have that feeling of you are doing 1,000% and you're still doubted.
Yeah.
And you brought that up as well as a creative color. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm little praise here, but you're doing I love your work. I mean, you have great engagement. You're just amazing. And it's, you have to put in 1,000%. So
Yeah, it never ends. That's for sure.
yeah.
No, I like that they showed this, and certainly the conversation that she has with Helen and Janice there, the great Daphne Reed coming back, who played, of course, the second Aunt Viv in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, getting her a moment there, and also Vernee Watson, who I've been a fan of since Welcome Back, Kotter. That's how long I go back with Vernee Watson. So great to see her being a part of this as well. So the conversation here is so on point for Viv, because she has to figure out what it is she wants to do. She opened the door to painting again, then opened the door to the possibility of this fellowship. She wants to go and grab it. Well, part of grabbing it is understanding there's all these responsibilities that are going to have to suffer, or that you're going to have to be aware of and make make assurances for, or make conditions for, so that you can pursue this. And I like that she initially they give her 24 hours, and they say they want her to do it. She takes some time, she talks to Phil, and then that scene where she's calling on the phone and she's giving all these reasons for why she can't do something. It's really bad. And I love that. I don't know if it was Helen or Janice who said, like, this is why we give you 24 hours. We will not take an answer. Think about it, sleep on it, all of that. So she's having to come to terms with, yes, this is great, but of course, when you open this door, other things might have to suffer. So can you make this decision? And of course, Phil dropping out makes the decision a lot easier for her. But the fact that she cares about her family, and clearly she puts her family first. That is her instinct, is to put her family first. And I think that's why she chose her family 15 years ago over the painting, and why now she's choosing initially the family over the fellowship, because she knows where she feels she's most needed, and that is here. And sometimes you've got to, with people like that, sometimes you've got to remove them being needed so they can go and pursue what they actually want to do, so they can have a little bit of happiness creatively on that side of the ledger in their life. And it seems like Phil's going to do that for her by the end of this episode.
I
Yeah.
also love that we had this little intimate scene with Phil and with Vivian, where she says she loves him, she's proud of him. So I was hoping to get more of those little moments, just because I know they're having these ups and downs, but it was nice to see that she's really telling him what he needs to know and speaking from the heart before he goes out onto this debate.
Yeah, and sometimes, Nikki, radical honesty is telling something really nice to somebody and telling someone how much you care about them. And certainly that's to counter what happened a couple episodes ago. That's certainly nice thing to see between them, you know.
So jumping into Phil, a little bit more of Jeffrey and the campaign manager and the scene with, basically you're the political go-to on this, as far as, the digging up dirt and, the campaign manager is advising him to, have your gloves ready. And, Jeffrey makes that statement, about the world doesn't need to see two Black men tearing each other down. So there's like really difficult decisions to make in that scene with the campaign manager. What were your thoughts on that?
It's interesting, I mean, idealistically, yes, Jeffrey's absolutely right. You don't want to see two people of color, two Black men tearing each other apart, because people enjoy watching that. And that's not a good thing for the community. But this is politics. And in politics, you got to do what you got to do to get into a position to win. And you got to understand what the methods you're using will do and will elicit amongst the voters. And so him encouraging him to keep that in his back pocket and go, okay, good. Now we're done with tea and crumpets. Let's get to the meat of things. Jeffrey is trying to make Phil aware of how Phil can be somewhat conveniently oblivious to his desires, his ambition, and who he's hurting in the process, and how he likes to play like he's not involved when he actually is involved, and give himself some deniability here. And I think Jeffrey has been rightly calling him out through the season, and certainly called him out strongly in this episode. And then what it leads to, of course, their interaction there, where they're battling verbally about how Phil has been disregarding the family, or not being as strongly there for his family as he needs to be because of his ambition to become DA. He might crack the family, is what Jeffrey said. And certainly Phil being upset with Jeffrey for honoring Will's wishes to find out about Will's dad. I think that led to quite a confrontation between them as well. So yeah, just interesting, a lot of interesting moving pieces between these two men. And I enjoyed seeing it. And then we get to the debate, obviously, and he steps down, which is really, really shocking. And I did not see that. Usually I like to think that I can see things coming a mile away. I did not see that decision at all, and was really surprised by it. But I think it got me even more excited to see the season finale next week.
Yeah, I kind of wasn't surprised, when, Carlton and Will were trying to warn him that, hey, he's got this dirt on, he knows about you cleaning up the mess. We don't know what was involved in that. I'm just thinking the worst, that, they did something that could get them all, fired, or not able to run for anything. But there was also that Judge Robertson is the person that gave the information to Fred. But was that the person that was in the room with Phil during the debate?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was the one that was like, tell him, hey, it could have gone this way, but you chose to go this path. And Phil was kind of feeling himself, saying, I'm doing better without your support. And of course, now he comes with that information that he's going to give to Joe to go after him. So yeah.
Yeah. And also Lisa and Will, obviously now she knows, and, she's upset, basically. Like, that whole flashback is before her eyes on, what is real and what is not real. And I'm going to go to you again as the relationship expert. What were your thoughts on Lisa and this big reveal? And do you think that, I mean, you kind of predicted, you said that you didn't think that this relationship would kind of last, only because this is his first one out in Bel-Air.
Yeah.
What are your predictions on that?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I liked the way the show handled it. As I said earlier, really enjoyed the way they handled it. Lisa coming in, confronting him. Clearly has keys to the door because she walked us right in. I like that. And then she told Carlton to shut up, which I'd never seen or expected from Lisa. So clearly she was upset and wanted answers. But at least she created space for Will to tell his truth. Now, where I thought this might break them, the fact that she created the space and Will fully told his truth here was a really powerful moment. And so maybe now they become even stronger as a couple, and we'll go forward with them. But Lisa said, I've never hidden anything from you, Will. So now we don't know if there's something coming down the road where Lisa didn't 100% tell the truth. Now Will can maybe go back and go, you told me in this moment, and you made me give me all my information and everything that happened, and you were telling me you told me everything. We
Mhm.
haven't told me everything. So that could open the door down the road for a possible breakup. But yeah, I like the way this was handled, and certainly they see this couple as being a strong couple in the series, and we'll see how this plays out over the next couple of seasons if the show, forever long the show keeps going.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, I like the way it was handled. It was a nice
Yeah.
change of pace. Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm looking forward to seeing how, this, Vivian, moves forward with her career,
Mm,
and, will Phil take a backseat now that he's pulled out of this, run for DA?
yeah,
So I'm just curious to know how the next, episode as well as the next seasons play themselves out. Do you have
yeah.
any predictions on that, or anything you want to see moving forward?
Oh, Nikki, I think you make an excellent point. I mean, Phil making the decision is a big moment, but we both of us know once you make the decision, it's certainly great in the moment. Then it's the ramifications of the decision that you have to live with. Is Phil really going to be comfortable sitting at home, taking care of the kids, working from home, being a lawyer, occasionally going out to court or whatever, while Viv is traveling across the country, as she said, doing these speeches and doing these presentations or whatever? Will he feel cool about it? And let's throw it down to gender dynamics. Does he, as a man who has been leading his family for 15 years, can he really transition to becoming a man who's at home taking care of his kids and being essentially a house dad? Is he going to be cool with that? And will the guys giving him crap about it, his friends, will that affect him? So it's a whole other ball game once you make that switch. And if you're not prepared for it, it can lead to a lot of conflicts and issues. So certainly they've set themselves up to have some battles between Phil and Viv down the road about his decision and how much of a hard ass is he going to be with Will now being home all the time, or with Carlton, or with Hillary, when he's going to be the go-to person. It seems like they're setting up to be the lead parent at home, at least, about this. So about their issues. So to me, I'm very, very curious to see how they play this thing out, and how committed he actually is to being the one at home while Viv goes and does the things that she's doing. So I'm just very, very curious. And it could lead to him and Carlton becoming even stronger. Certainly Carlton was saying how much pressure his father had put him under. Maybe there's some healing to be done here between these two as well. That could be a positive result.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that as well. Carlton and Phil, and as well as, Hillary,
Yeah.
the chaos of Hillary. And I think that, her storyline definitely will draw in, her age demographic,
Right.
viewing this. It's definitely interesting. Seems all over the place, but, definitely strong. So did we miss anything? I think we covered everything on this episode.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think everything was pretty much handled. Yeah. Do you think Joe goes on and becomes? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking his name, Joseph. My friend Joseph. Do you think he goes on to become DA? Do you think he'll actually accept it? And how is that going to change his situation? Will he go after Will? Will he try to overturn? Do you think
Mhm.
the judge now is pushed to the side? And they're going to leave Phil alone about the stuff with Will, or do you think there's a little more revenge to come here between them?
I don't think it's over. I don't think
Yeah.
that's over
Okay.
as far as, just, he ended it well with
Yeah.
supporting Fred. But that's a pretty big secret.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of people that know about it now. So we'll see. I think he will go on to win, most
Mhm.
likely. And, maybe we'll see Phil doing something else.
He could use Phil, right? Fred could use Phil and be like, "Hey, I'll tell this stuff about you if you don't
Mhm.
come and support me in this situation. If you don't come and speak for me in this situation. If you don't come and smooth
Yes.
the issue." So yeah, I can see that being an issue. That's a great point you bring up,
That's
Nick. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
good point that you're making as well. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, so looking forward to the finale next week, and
Yeah.
yeah, so everyone, please, like and subscribe and leave your comments below. Let us know how you're enjoying the season and this episode, and we'll see you next week.